Hi, Liverpool. How you doing? I realize things have been going so well for you this year that I haven't really talked about you much. I have some really horrible news. That has all changed right now. I don't care if you are allegedly the best team in the world. The FA Cup claims all souls. It claims them all eventually, and we have been gifted one of the biggest upsets in the FA Cup in the last decade, if not the biggest, right? And I didn't watch this live, and I didn't remember it. I just happened to read it in an article right before I started making this video, but Bradford City was down 2-0 at Stamford Bridge and managed to turn that around like 10 years ago. But outside of that, this is probably the biggest upset. Liverpool, the reason we haven't really talked about them on this channel is, one, if I'm talking about your club, it probably means something's bad, something bad is happening, or something really good is happening. Every once in a while that does happen, but the Zealandism Thunderdome is reserved mostly for teams that are in their own personal Thunderdome, and then we just kind of add to it. It's really reserved for whatever the hell I want to talk about. And I want to talk about Liverpool losing to Plymouth because holy shit. Plymouth is the worst team in the championship. Just like to give you an idea, a championship team beating a Premier League team, that's not surprising. What is surprising is the best Premier League team. The best Premier League team by a mile, a country mile. Manchester City's cleaning out a gutter somewhere. Chelsea is not in the title race. Arsenal is once again waiting for next year. There's nobody there. It's just Liverpool right now. That team. And yeah, sure, they weren't playing a few first-team players, but holy crap. When I saw this result, I was like, wow, did Liverpool play its U18s? It didn't. The front three was Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota, and Federico Chiesa. If one of those guys was playing on Plymouth Argyle, one, they probably wouldn't be last in the championship, and two, that guy would obviously be the best player in the entire league. That's who they had across the front three. Then the midfield, they've got Indo and Harvey Elliott. I'm not going to lie to you, man. This almost looks like a starting 11 and like a fixture congestion Premier League week. I don't know why people were looking at this going, well, they super rotated. I'm not buying that excuse. It's bullshit. This is a good Liverpool team that they put out there and they got beat. And it was not a fluke. It wasn't. Liverpool did not create a ton of sure, they had a few good chances. They did not create a ton. The shots were 14-10. And if you watch the extended highlights, it is not like an overwhelming dominance from Liverpool. Plymouth hit the post outside of its goal, right? They were around. They were in this game. Sure, Liverpool had like 76% possession, but you get what you pay for when it comes to technical ability and ability to keep the ball. But what the game boils down to is how many chances are you getting to score, and that wasn't very far off. Plymouth had more XG in the first half when it was 0-0. Their only goal, by the way, if you missed it, it was a penalty. Very obvious, just a bad handball by Harvey Elliott. For some reason, he came out like he was, praising the Lord or something. Like dude's about to hit the biggest prayer of all time and just stuck his arms straight up in the air, and somebody biked it and hit him right in the hand. This is why you should always go for the bicycle kick. Now, obviously, Joe Gomez got hurt earlier in this game, right? And they brought in Isaac Mabaya, who I think was making his debut. I honestly don't even remember. He got subbed out later for Darwin Nunez. So I'm not going to pretend that this was Liverpool's best team, but it was certainly a team that should have been good enough to win this game. I do not disagree with Arne Slot's team selection at all. I can't. It was a good bit of team selection from Arne Slot. This is exactly the team you should be putting on the field against Plymouth. It's exactly the team that anybody in the Premier League would have been trying to put on the field, like a mostly first team, but also 3 or 4 spots in the team for backups type squad against Plymouth, because Plymouth is ass. They're bad. They're basically a League One team. They are stapled to the bottom of the table in the championship. Pour one out for Pieface, the FIFA YouTuber who is a huge Plymouth fan. I'm sure he's been lamenting that. They've got a new coach, but a new coach talking about toughness and gumption and, all that stuff. What's his name? Muric? Muslich. He's an Austrian guy named Muslich, right? And he's a real fire and brimstone type manager. But that shouldn't matter. It just shouldn't matter. There is no excuse for Liverpool not winning this game. Sometimes you just lose. Liverpool, my best estimation, Liverpool just thought they were going to walk in here and win this game. And this has got to be a wake-up call. Because one, Liverpool is fallible. They're fallible. They're coming off dog-walking Tottenham in the second leg of that the second leg of the League Cup semifinal. They have the quad on because they're in the League Cup final. You know, they're the freaking top of the table in the Champions League, top of the table in the Premier League, and they lose to Plymouth. And this just goes back to the point I was making earlier, which is how big of an upset is this? It's massive. This is the type of upset that you dream of, but you really never see. The worst team in the championship against the best team in the Prem. They are 44 positions away from each other in the ladder, from first in the Prem to 24th in the championship. 44! Can't even count that high, man. The celebrations after the game were obviously awesome. This is the sort of match that the moment it ends, you want to look up how everybody reacted. Shout out to the defender on Plymouth, Nikola Katic, who apparently, I think according to his manager, busted his tooth earlier in the game. They were playing their hearts out, and then he just drops like a rampaging F-bomb on daytime television, which we're playing.
As a Plymouth player, and you've just beaten Liverpool. I fucking love it. I fucking love it.
I don't know who's snoozing on the mute button there. Somebody should be muting that, okay? The way this TV stuff works, you should have a guy whose finger's hovering over the button. I guess they haven't invented that on daytime TV in the UK because they didn't expect Nikola Katic to drop consecutive F-bombs. But the reason that TV is delayed 5-10 seconds or whatever is so that you have the time to actually be able to mute something. That didn't happen. So that guy's getting fired. Pour one out for him. Love the enthusiasm, though. Absolutely love the enthusiasm. As for what Plymouth Gargoyle here have going the rest of the season, well, they're currently trying to dig themselves out of a relegation position where they are by far the worst team in goal difference. But actually, when you assess the point situation, they need basically 5 points to get themselves out of a relegation spot. 6 points, if you want to call it even. And they've got 16 matches to do it. So maybe this Muslic guy is going to be able to, maybe he's going to be able to inspire some sort of turnaround. A deeper FA Cup run is definitely something that's going to help out Plymouth as well. Because here's the deal, really. Even if you get relegated now, that's not your season anymore. So much about being in the relegation zone, like if you're Southampton or whatever, is just the humdrum of getting your ass kicked every time you play. Plymouth has lost half the games they've played. They won 5 of 30 matches that they've played in the league this year. They have held 2 clean sheets in 30 matches in the league. But now in the FA Cup, in the 3rd round and now the 4th round, they have held a clean sheet in both. That's 2-2. They have the same number of clean sheets in the FA Cup as the league. Now, it is possible, and I believe it's totally possible, and this is what Muslic is going to say as like a sales pitch, that you can take the momentum you've built in the FA Cup and bring it to the league. But I don't know if I'm necessarily going to buy that. Now Plymouth is in that fun situation, like the one that I always think of is Wigan when they won the FA Cup final, where the FA Cup just becomes their entire season, right? Everything about the league is basically a tune-up for the FA Cup. Your best team, your most fit team, your best players are going to be playing that 5th round FA Cup match because the rest of the season sucks. It's just death and despair and sadness. Well, the FA Cup, that's dreamland. That's fantasy land. They can get a decent draw in the 5th round. I mean, they are a championship team here. Allegedly. They're a championship team. If they can get a draw against, I don't know, not another Big 6 team, they're going to go into that match feeling like they've got a chance. And there are going to be a few draws available where they might actually even be, if not the favorite, in with like a shout. I mean, Millwall is still in. They can definitely get near Ipswich. Preston North End's still in. Burnley's still there. Cardiff is there. Right, Brighton knocked out Chelsea. You obviously don't want to draw Brighton there, but you get the idea. There are a couple of teams where if they draw against those teams, they'll go in with a chance to get all the way to the 6th round of the FA Cup, and then things can start to get, I don't know, really crazy. But I love when we've got teams that have that situation where the FA Cup is just their entire season. As for what this actually means for Liverpool, I think it could be a good thing. I hate those people that say, like, yeah, losing a game could really help them. Obviously, you'd rather win every game ever. But what I'm saying is clearly this match shows some flaws in Liverpool's mentality. Maybe a couple of its players played particularly poorly. And if you are going to lay an egg, if you are going to have a match where things kind of fall apart, you go, oh, what happened? Our mentality wasn't right for that game. You probably want it to be this one. Right, you're in the League Cup final. You got a chance to add a trophy right there. You're still early doors in the FA Cup, so now you're going to have a little less fixture congestion, which is going to help you in with the title race because you're probably going to end up with a fairly deep run going on in the Champions League because you'll be a seeded team in the round of 16, which means at least 4 more matches going on from the Champions League, at least, assuming you win the match that you're favored to win. In the league, even though it feels comfortable, it's still not like fully comfortable. It can become uncomfortable very quickly. So I think Arne Slot, who's a very good manager, will be able to use something like this, a result like this, to look at his team and go, hey, guys, see what happens when we don't focus? We really need to focus. If you don't focus, we're going to get our ass beat by Plymouth Gargoyle here, okay? And they're bad, and we're not, and so focus, okay? Now, obviously, the perfect world for both of these would be Liverpool uses this to inspire the rest of their season, and Plymouth uses this to inspire the rest of their season. But at least I would like to thank them for providing an entertaining game. Thank goodness, because this was supposed to be a blowout. And we got a 1-0 win from Plymouth? Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.